Laura from Doggy U, and this is my dog Cool Whip. If you're new to this channel, I'm a service and pet dog trainer that loves training tricks, as well as playing disc with my dog. So today I'm going to teach you how to train the foot stall. Alright, before we get started, make sure you boop that like button and comment below with any tricks that you'd like to learn. Not only does it help others find the channel, but it gives me a list of different ideas for videos to make in the future. So if you've been to my channel before, you know what I'm going to talk about. It's safety first. We need to make sure that the dog we're using is in good physical condition and able to do this skill. For some dogs, that can take up to months of being able to physically get both the muscling that they need as well as the proprioception and balance that's needed for this kind of trick. If you're newer to trick training and your dog doesn't do this type of trick frequently, I want you to check out the video list below that I've made that can help increase both your dog's strength and body awareness before you get started. Remember to take it slow and build those skills over months of time. This isn't a trick that you get down in just one session. Along those same lines, this is not a trick for every dog or every handler. Make sure you're physically capable of doing this. My kind of max range for being able to do this with a dog is around 40 to 45 pounds after I blew my ACL. So make sure that you're ready physically to have a giant dog hurtling at your feet that you need to successfully balance so that both you and the dog don't get injured. For reference, Cool Whip is just under 40 pounds. And finally, always practice in secure footing so that your dog is not jumping up or down from a slippery surface that could cause injury. All right, time to get to the fun part. The way that I think about a foot stall is a progressive mat targeting exercise. So you can build value for a dog jumping on the mat and then place that mat on varying heights of objects for them to jump on, as well as various sizes and stability levels, eventually fading that mat like you would with a stay and making that target your feet. So I'm going to bring you through that start to finish process so that you can get a complete foot stall, making sure that you get all of those foundation behaviors covered. To practice this trick, you are going to need a few pieces of equipment. The first is a traction mat. I use the Blue 9 traction mat that's designed to go on top of the climb, but it works really well for this trick. Other alternatives would be a bath mat or a cut-up piece of yoga mat. You're also going to need a platform that you can make progressively higher. I use climbs for this and stack my climbs on top of each other, but using things such as starting with a larger step stool, an ottoman, a tree trunk, those are the type of things that you can improvise and use to increase the height of the skill. You'll also need a bar stool of some sort. You can typically pick these up secondhand. This is important because it's the last physical step you're going to use before you start using your body for your dog to target. Another thing that can be helpful is a well-fitting Y-front harness, ideally with a handle. This can help your dog with stability when they need it. It's also helpful to have peanut butter and a spoon to smear it on, so you can use it as an alternate way to deliver treats to your dog. Finally, it's really useful to have a helper available once we get further on into the training. As always, I'll link any of the products that I discussed down below so that you can find them. A reminder that this trick is physically taxing for your dog, so you should only be training it a few minutes at a time. That means just a couple reps or set a timer for yourself that after 2 or 3 minutes, we're done for the day. You can also give your dog breaks in between as well as rest days. Remember to take it slow, don't push it, and build up your dog's conditioning over time. We're on to the first step. We're going to teach your dog to be comfortable on a variety of surfaces and elevations, as well as build their conditioning. This trick requires a lot of balance, strength, and a good understanding of their body from your dog. Remember that the demo dog in this video has a lot of experience with tricks that require physicality and a good understanding of her body. So take it slow with your own dog if that isn't the type of trick training that you regularly do. If you need ideas on how to increase your dog's body awareness, check out the videos listed in the description. We can start with having your dog target a low, stable surface with all 4 feet. I use the traction mat on top of a climb, but you can use any low surface that provides good traction for your dog. It helps if your dog already has a go-to-place skill, so you can ask them to go to place, feed on top of the mat, and then use their release word, mine is free, to release them from the mat. If your dog doesn't have a go-to-place yet, you can lure them on, feed them in position, and then use the release word and toss food away. As your dog starts to understand to put all 4 feet on top of the mat, you can increase the height of the climb. So I'll start with it on the floor for dogs that need it, or on its base level, then I'll add a second climb with the traction mat on top as my dog starts being comfortable getting up onto that climb on cue. From there, I can generalize to my dog jumping onto other large, stable platforms before increasing the height and decreasing the size of the platform. We want them to be really comfortable jumping up on cue and then releasing on cue as well. Remember to give them their jump up cue. I use hup, feed several treats in a row, and then give the release cue. I use free. Always reach for the harness and help steady your dog if they need support, and then make sure you take a step back to an easier object to increase their confidence on their own if they've needed your help with the harness. As they get more comfortable, you can also practice cueing them to jump up onto an object while you're on the ground to simulate your different body language as you progress in this trick. Once your dog is really comfortable jumping onto a variety of different platforms on cue, we're going to graduate to using the stool, which is a smaller, higher surface that's typically about the height of a human's legs when they're laying on the ground. With your bath mat or grip mat on top of the stool, we're going to continue that targeting behavior. This will help with stability and also continuity because the dog will understand, oh, that grip mat has been on every surface they've asked me to target, now it's just on the stool, I need to jump up there. If your dog can't jump confidently onto a stool and balance there, continue slowly building up to this step by practicing on 2 climbs, fit pause equipment, and other natural pedestals like tree trunks. You can also reward a few times for putting their front feet up on the surface to get them familiar with it, and then toss a cookie away so they can get a running jump next time. Make sure your dog is practicing jumping from in front of you and exiting or jumping off to the side of you to simulate the departure and landing of the trick once you're on the ground. Stabilize the stool with your foot so that it doesn't fall over when your dog jumps onto it and scare them. As they get better, you can allow a slight bit of wobble on the stool, but always keep it stable with your foot so it doesn't fall over, which can really set back your training. Next, we're going to add a weight cue and reinforce weighting before jumping up onto the object. Essentially, we need to put jumping on cue or under stimulus control so that when we get further into training, we are able to set ourselves up without a dog flying at us before we're ready. At this time, we also want to add in the stay or wait cue, and as well as continue with the release cue so that the dog knows to stay on your feet until released, so you're both prepared for the release.
Up, stay.
Once we have a solid jump on the mat on cue behavior, we can start with shin targeting. Start by practicing the setup from the ground, rewarding for setting up oriented between your legs and waiting. Lay on the ground with your knees bent and put your mat over your shins, creating a stable, flat surface for your dog. Holding the mat tight on both ends will keep your shins together while your dog jumps up. If your dog is struggling, using a spoon with peanut butter or a helper standing over you to feed them can be helpful. You can start by rewarding for just putting front feet up, but if you're having to do that more than a few times, it's time to either take a step back and get jumping onto the mat more strongly on cue, or you can try using a climb to put your feet up on and walking them onto your shins a few times before going back to asking them to jump up. As you create a stronger reinforcement history on your shins, make sure that you're fading that lure as well as having them wait for a longer period of time so that they're increasing their balance on your shins. So I want to pause here for a moment to mention the Doggy U community. If you want extra content or need some help with troubleshooting your own training, check it out at patreon.com/doggyu. You'll find a community of other dog trainers and dog lovers who come together every month for a live stream where you can ask questions that you have about training, or we even have levels where you can submit video and I'll give you personalized feedback on how to troubleshoot any training issues you're having. So definitely check it out over at patreon.com/doggyu. Once you can cue your dog to jump onto your shins without luring, it's time to break out the largest pair of shoes you have. I typically use something like hiking or winter boots so that your dog has the largest surface area available to balance on. Lay on the floor just like you were with the shin stall, but instead you're going to put the mat over your shoes. The bottoms of your shoes are pointed slightly at your dog, and as they jump up, you'll rock slightly back to catch them, and that will create a flat, stable surface that's parallel to the ground, and holding your mat will keep your feet securely together. Lower your feet quite a bit so that your dog can see the surface they need to jump onto. It's helpful for your dog to wear a secure fitting harness and have a helper to support the dog, especially if your dog is sensitive and will have feelings about not getting it right the first time. The helper can either physically help steady the dog, or they can help pause the motion by feeding in place. Positioning that person over the head to pause the motion can help the dog feel more confident and less likely to jump onto your feet and then leap forward immediately off him. Make sure the helper feeds the dog in a head neutral position so the dog can easily balance and eat. If you don't have a helper, but you have a dog that's pretty good at balancing and you've got a solid foundation and a strong stay, you can treat the dog directly. Or if you're like me and I have an arm length, leg length ratio issue, I need to use Cheese Whiz or peanut butter on a spoon, as this helps keep my dog safer when I feed. Feeding in place also prepares the dog to be doing something up on top of your feet, whether that's eventually juggling a disc or doing some other trick while up in the footstall. If your dog is struggling, here's a couple troubleshooting tips. If your dog isn't able to make the mental or physical leap from going from shin stall to footstall, you can start their jumping position from one of the climbs so that they're higher up and the distance is smaller. Once they're comfortable jumping onto your feet from the climb, you can eliminate the climb altogether. If your dog is struggling with balance issues when transitioning from your shins to your feet, you can use some other type of flat stable surface on top of your shoes. When I was building Whip's confidence, I found this small little wooden box thing that I could put over my feet that allowed her to practice jumping up onto the level of my feet while still on a relatively stable surface. Here I want to mention the release off of your feet, so your free cue. We want to make sure that they're jumping up on cue and also releasing on cue. When we release them, we want to lower our legs as much as possible, so we're going to put our knees towards our belly and then allow the dog to have the shortest distance jumping from your feet down to the ground for safety. If your dog is smaller, you can also have a helper assist with jumping down. Once your dog is solid doing this trick with the target mat, you're going to eliminate the target mat from the picture. If you still need a little bit of help with keeping yourself stable, you can use something like a leash or some other type of rope wrapped around your feet to keep your feet together. Getting yourself balanced with a 40-pound dog on top of your feet can sometimes be a challenge, so one thing that I can do to help with my stability is wrap my arms around my legs to create the most stable surface I can for my dog while they're jumping up. Once you're no longer needing the mat or the leash to hold your feet together, you can work up to doing various tricks in the footstall or other variations of that footstall. The sky's the limit once your dog gets this one, so it can be really fun to play around with. All right, everyone, that about wraps it up for today. If you have questions, make sure you put them down in the comments below. Make sure you boop that like button, as well as subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notified anytime a new video comes out. And if you have a friend you think needs to train this trick, make sure you share this video with them. The more you like, comment, and share this video, the more people come to the channel, which means the more videos I get to make. You all have an awesome day, and happy training.
Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for our next video. Subscribe now and never miss an episode.
Girl, that was on me.